these half dozen questions I've got going on.
Okay.
Good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. As you're jumping on, I would love it if you hopped into the comments and said hello. Let us know who's here and where you're from so we can chat it up. And hopefully, as we go along, you're going to have some questions for my friend Victor Hubbard. And Victor is the owner and co-founder of Performance Driven Marketing. You're in Ogden, Utah, right?
Yeah.
In that area. Okay, cool. And you've got a kind of interesting background I'm going to get into in a minute, but like give yourself a little bit introduction, let people know who you are. I know you, but not everybody else that's going to jump in and watch this knows you.
Sure, you bet. We've been doing internet marketing almost since Facebook got started. If that put some reference in it for you. So we've been doing this now for 17 years, and so it's been awesome. It's been a journey. So myself and my business partner Dave Wade started 17 years ago, helping. We were selling yellow page advertising, helping people to get leads and generate business that way, and we saw that dying, and so we jumped ship and we started doing internet marketing and have been growing this business ever since then. It's been awesome. It's
okay. That's very cool. So I knew some of that background. You have mentioned, Yellow Book before, but I wanted to dig into that. It was like, Yellow Book, how many people know what Yellow Pages are nowadays? And I don't think that you're that old. You must have been, that's like your high school job or something.
I'm older than I might look, but I take my hat off, and me and Sid have the similar hairdo.
Nice.
Sid both look really good.
Wow, that's a new look for you, isn't it? Or have you just always worn a cap? I thought you had hair.
I've just always worn a cap, but it's been bald all the time, Sid. It's there's only so many perfect heads out there like ours.
No, that's cool. So here's like making the transition, and you said it. You said we saw that print media was dying, and you jumped ship. You got into online marketing, making a transition from any legacy media or legacy platform to something new can be daunting. But you did that, and you've ridden that and worked it for 17 years. And now we're probably facing as big of a transition or bigger with AI-driven online experience. Like, are you like pulling in the reins, or like if you're changing horses, or how do you view what's coming with AI? It's hard to get the crystal ball on it. What do you see?
It's an interesting market, right? It's definitely, there's a lot of cool stuff that are coming with the AI. There's definitely got to be some change in how you would do things. Like if you're not utilizing AI to do your research and different things, then you're crazy. It makes it so much faster to gain and gather information. Weird enough is we are still saying that internet in general, our search is still there, and there's not really being hurt. It's changing a little bit. So there's things that are changing. And so it's important to understand those changes and how they're evolving. I was just looking, just kind of before I popped on with you, just to kind of check a couple different clients. To give you a reference point, right now, when people use ChatGPT kind of as the main hub, that's the one that most people think of when they think of AI.
Yeah.
So when people use that, like we have a client that I was just looking at over the last year, he's had 12,000 visitors to his website. He's only had 8 visits from ChatGPT to his website.
Oh, really?
And so sometimes people think that it's like changing really drastically, really fast, and that there's all this search that's happening. It's important to understand where and how it's being done currently and what the difference is.
So like that, we said he's only had 8 searches that anchored from ChatGPT. Is that from, like, if somebody does, they're searching whatever, they describe a problem, like how do you do this and that, and there's a citation in ChatGPT and they click that as a link? It's not.
So if they click that link, like you're saying, if they click that citation and come back to them, that's how Google Analytics will then pick it up and say, you had somebody search for you on ChatGPT and come to your website. So we use that data to pull from like your Google Analytics, so you can better understand and know where you're currently at, right? It's definitely something to think about, right? Is that's evolving, it's changing, but that's still such a fresh new thing that even a year from now, right, it could be completely different. Yeah. But right this moment, it's not there, but at the same time, it's important that we're doing things to be proactive to make sure that we're showing up as high as possible when that does happen.
Yeah, with the advent and growth and rapid acceleration of AI, I keep thinking of Wayne Gretzky when he said, I don't go where the puck is. I go where the puck is going to be. But it's hard to know where's it going to be. It's like the early years of any big industry when there's dozens, if not hundreds of players, like it was the automotive industry in the 1910s, 1920s. There are 150 auto manufacturers in the United States, and then that ended up being 3. And then same thing happened with cell phones, with internet providers, and it's like it's Wild West, and then it comes down to the dominant players, and it's hard to predict how that's going to go with AI. But let me ask you this: you're a little bit. I mean this in the best way. You're a data nerd. Who's more of a data nerd, you or Dave, your partner?
Dave definitely more of a data nerd. He gets even crazier than I do. So
okay. My impression, this is not based on data, so it's ironic I'm going to ask this question. Do you find that most of your clients or most people in home service industries make decisions based on data or just on gut feel?
Gut feel.
And how can they transition that to start making more data-driven decisions? Because here's how I track data. I hire somebody like you, or I have a VA gather it so they can look at it and consolidate it so I can glance and go, oh, that makes sense. But I'm not using the data to make decisions. I'm using the data to support decisions already made, to justify them, actually.
Sure. Yeah, and I think when people really start running their business and start looking for that data, like what is that data that's most important to you? For us, we use Google Analytics, and it's kind of a good baseline. And so it gives us stats as far as how many visitors come to your website. It'll tell us how many people have visited certain pages and different things. But we also start looking at, like, most important data for me is how many phone calls did you receive? Like, I could care less how many people actually came to your website as long as they called you. So, and we're actually finding some of that, right? Like with search, search is actually, my search numbers are going down, but my actual number of leads coming into people are still staying the same, because people are making actions straight off of, if they do a Google search, they're just calling the phone number when they see it on the Google Maps or different things. So they don't have to click into the website to go see it. Yeah. So that's kind of something that's kind of evolving is we call them 0 clicks. So people that are not actually clicking through things, they're reading data. They might find an AI overview. They read about it and they talk about a company. They then go and Google search that company. They never actually click through to go to that website, but they Google search them, and then they call off of the Google Maps before they ever did that. Yeah. So that's where it's hard, right? Is we just talked about data saying that there was 8 people that have visited this website in the last year, but maybe there was 100 people that visited ChatGPT, found that information, didn't click on any links, went and researched that company, and then made a phone call. So yeah, that's where it gets a little bit tricky, is how do you sometimes quantify where that lead truly came from at the end of the day?
Okay, well, we got a handful of people jumping on live. Thank you, first of all. If you're jumping in here, thanks for being here. We're already getting in the weeds with Victor, talking all the nerdy shit about marketing and tracking. And I've got a couple of more good questions for Victor to teach us how to get more leads. But say hello in the comments. And I would love to give away a ticket or 2 to the huge convention by the end of the show. If you would like to win a ticket to the huge convention, share this live feed in a couple of groups, and then make sure and say hello in the comments so we know who you are. Sound good? Thank you. All right, Victor. When you talk about the no-click leads, like people that end up, maybe they find you on the Google My Business page, on the 3-pack or whatever, and then they just hit the number. To track with the origin of that call, is that something you need to install special numbers like data call rails, or we use a VOP, whatever. We use a online phone system, and it's called GoToConnect or Jive or something like that.
Yeah, I use call rails is the one that I use a lot of. And usually what we'll do is we'll have specific numbers for different pieces of advertising. So usually for most of our clients, we'll have 1 to 5 different numbers. And maybe they want to track their trucks and vehicles. So we'll put a unique phone number on their vehicle wraps. Maybe we want to track their Google My Business, like you were saying. Typically, I don't change my Google My Business because I want to keep my name, address, and phone number the same across all platforms. So typically I won't change out the GMB listing phone number just because I want it to stay with all my other stuff for Google. So I don't screw up my search. But
yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna pop Craig's comment up here. Craig, good to see you. By the way, Craig Hensel's got the Rolling with the Window Cleaner Museum coming to the huge convention this year for the first time, which is great for tech nerds, not tech like computer tech, but like you guys that are you're in the field, you're on the glass, and you love the feel of a good squeegee. This is going to be fun. But he brings up a good point for some of us old school dudes, or Jesse said he doesn't advertise. It's just his truck, and he doesn't go to areas where he doesn't want to work. He drives in areas he wants to work, so he self-advertises, especially those new areas that are growing that he thinks are going to be active in the next few years. Targets high-end residential, stuff like that. So there are a lot of different ways you can look at the AI revolution and online marketing, offline marketing. One of the things that will not change is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So if you can develop that online, phenomenal. If you develop it in person with a handshake, phenomenal. But people are going to do business with someone they trust. And how do you build that trust quickly in an online setting? Because we're getting back to online marketing.
Sure. I think it's important, right? Is anything you're doing online is understand that it is all interconnected. And so you'll hear me say my name, address, and phone number need to match across all the platforms. Well, Google itself, even AI, are all looking at different places. So all of these places are trying to find your data and your information. And so one thing to really understand is if you're out there and putting your information, it should always match up. If you're not matching your name, your address, and your phone number, Google doesn't necessarily know it's you, and so they can't give you credit for it. And so what we'll find is just talking even a little bit more on the AI is how does AI do their search? It's kind of similar to how Google does, right? Is they look for sites that are going to reference different companies, and we call these citations or directories. So with AI, one of the biggest ones that I've noticed is Reddit. It likes to pull content and information from Reddit. Yeah. It also pulls a lot of content and information from Yelp. And so it's important that if you want to show up on AI, that you're playing in those platforms. You're going out there and putting information, and even your customers are putting information. So if you go to Reddit and you find information that talks about like who's the best window cleaner up here in Missoula, Montana, right? Is you should be going out there and having one of your employees or yourself going in and adding comments about, hey, my company is the best company in this area for these things. And you're putting your business name, you're putting in referencing why you're the best, and you have other people go and comment it or like or do different things, so that then it references and gives it more weight so that it will pull better for that, if that makes sense.
Why do you think AI search like ChatGPT or whatever is so fond of Reddit? I've heard that 3 times this week.
Right? They want to try to pull and make it as humanized as possible. So the reason that they're pulling off of specifically Reddit is it's human forums, it's groups of people that are on there. And so they're not trusting data, they're trusting people or other sources. And so they're trying to humanize the content as much as possible. So that's part of that reason why they're doing it. You'll also find that they'll reference, so we do a lot with what we call city pages. So like we'll have a specific city that we talk about, because if somebody references in ChatGPT about a small city next to you in Missoula, like they want to find something specific to that area. So if you have a city page on your website talking about it, now Google, not only Google, but also ChatGPT and all these other search engines are searching that data and bringing back relevant content and information to that specific area of search.
Okay. There's ChatGPT. I know Perplexity is specifically an AI web search, but ChatGPT is not an AI web search, so to speak. It's an LLM, but does it scrape the web, or like there's only, we click the button that says access to the web? Here's my question. When ChatGPT is taking information directly from the web and searching the web, is it its own native search, or does it go through Google or some other platform?
That's an interesting fact. They're actually in lawsuits at the moment for some of that. I think they're saying, hey, where are you pulling your data from? Where are you sourcing it? if you look at it, most of the time they're going to tell you where they source that data or that information. So like on ChatGPT specifically, it has the little links that will show you where it pulled that data from.
Yeah.
But it's going, and I don't know the exact formula of how or where they get their data, but they're making queries onto your websites. So we've actually had issues, and you're going to see this is one of those things that people don't even realize it's a problem with the way that this happens is, but every time AI is doing a search currently, what it's doing is it's doing a brand new search. So if I go and do a search and I say, what's the best window cleaning company? It's going and searching immediately, and it's hitting your website. It's hitting all these different places. It's hitting all these sites, and it's actually doing a query on that search immediately. And what that does, what people don't understand, is it's taking your bandwidth. So we just had an issue where we had one of our website servers go down because we had one website that had hits of over 10,000 hits in a matter of a half an hour. And so it took my whole server down because somebody had been doing so many searches on the AI for that company that it hit so many times that it said, oh, it's getting attacked. It's getting attacked by malware, but it wasn't malware. It was actually AI just hitting it that many times.
Yeah. That's okay. That's interesting.
So what people don't understand is every time they do a search, they're doing a brand new search. So even like when you do a search and you do something and then you ask it another question, it always comes back just a little bit different because it's literally doing a whole brand new search and it's hitting all those sites one more time. So what people are not realizing is AI is going to cost you more money here in the future because hosting companies are going to have to charge you more money or you're going to have to start blocking those hits because it's going to just take so much bandwidth from your website.
Wow. That's I knew nothing about that. That's really fascinating. Do you know when Google does their web crawl, they don't do it like that, like a query, do they?
They do it more cached. It's more cached, so it's taking and hitting it only once instead of hitting it multiple times.
Okay.
And so there's more of a caching effect that happens. And so it's not happening every live second. It might be happening, hey, it's doing this search today, and then it hits it again. You'll hear them talking about bots. So like if you ever hear them talking about the bots that are going in and searching your website, they're not searching it every single day. They're searching it, every week or whatever else. And so that's where with these AI bots, they're literally hitting it thousands of times sometimes. And that's where I had an issue with that one website. And that's little things that people don't understand that's going to cost them more money. And that's something that we're still trying to navigate. It's so new still. I don't even know how to charge for some of that stuff yet. I haven't figured out, hey, do I have to pass those fees on that I'm paying for the hosting just because I'm getting charged more myself for the hosting because of how many hits somebody's getting hit.
Yeah, that's really it's almost like a hidden tax of AI because somebody's going to end up paying for it. Craig's got a great question. I'm going to pop it up here. Question for Victor. He said he doesn't use a cell phone. How do you get your home-based business to show up on the Google Maps when someone searches for directions? Because he sees many business models pop up the more he zooms in. You know, when you're looking at a map somewhere and something, I don't know, do they pay for ads? Where like you'll see hotels and restaurants pop up on the map. You didn't search for a hotel and restaurant. You searched for, Arts Lock and Key. How do those extra things show up that are on map?
Yeah, so it depends. There's lots of different maps. So if we're talking Google Maps specifically, Google Maps is going to try to give you relevant information. And I don't know if this is exactly what I asked him, but I'll try to answer this. If you ever go and do a search, so let's say we did a search for window cleaning right now, we'd find a map that would pop up, and you'll notice the screen size that it pops up might be a mile radius or it might be a 2 mile radius. Mm-hmm. And then if you zoom out, there's more businesses that pop up. But Google is trying to determine and say, hey, based off of where you're physically located, you're looking for a company in this area here specifically. And if there's less companies, they'll widen the search, and they'll widen the search until there's, more people that are there. And so the more dense or more populated you are in an area, the narrower, tighter that is. And then as far as what you're saying, there are ways that you can advertise to people on maps and different things that'll say, hey, my business is this. but Google is usually trying to reference what you searched maybe in the past. If you look for hotels or if you've looked for different things, they're smart enough to know what you already have been searching for and say, oh, you might also be interested in this. Or if you're talking about an event or something, they're like, well, you also need to have a hotel to stay. So here's some other hotel places. So they try to think about what you're thinking about before you even know you're thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, I don't know that Google knows us better than we know us, but it's got a better memory.
Yes.
Yeah. So it pulls up all kinds of stuff. All right. That's fascinating. With performance driven marketing, and I know you've marketed and generated leads for your own company when you had the flooring company before you sold that. Are you mostly in home businesses or trades, or what's the niche you love to work with most?
I love home service based businesses. Like, they're obviously my favorite. These guys are usually, they're trying to figure out this whole game of marketing and advertising. They're trying to figure out, where do I spend my money? How do I get a better return on it? And so I love working with the little guys. You get to a certain size company and there's so much politics and different things in it that I hate it. I prefer to work with the guy that's 5, he's a business owner. He's got 5 employees. He's hungry. He needs to keep those 5 employees busy, right? Some of us have a one-man shop and it's like, I don't need to advertise because I can keep myself busy. But once you hire a few guys, all of a sudden the game changes, because you're now liable for making sure that you're putting food on their table and different things. So that's my ideal company, is somebody that's, got 5 employees and looking to grow, or maybe they're 1 employee, but they want to have 5 employees. That person that looks and needs and understands that, hey, I need to grow my business and I can't just rely solely on word of mouth. I need to feed my team, because it's, I always tell people, if you can't get referrals and word of mouth business, you're not my right type of client either, because that means that I got to work way harder because you suck at doing everything else that you're doing, because you're burning all those people. So I want the guy that's keeping people happy and keeping those referrals coming in, and we're just adding to it, making that repeat business even bigger for them. So
yeah, that's funny. So okay, let's go way back in time. I started cleaning windows in Clearwater, Florida in 1993. I had one goal, and that was I have 2 weeks to earn enough for rent. And I was just hustling. Well, a few years go by, and I met a couple of dudes that clean windows, and I ended up buying their company when they moved out of town. But these guys, I didn't know, they were so rough and rowdy. It was almost, we joke about, their philosophy was, if you screw them hard enough the first time, you don't need repeat business. And they burned through people so fast. And then I bought their company. That's when I found out that they were burning people, as I was doing damage control with what had seemed to be their old customers. But literally, they would do stuff like, they would give quotes over the phone, and they'd tell somebody, would call in. They were like, yeah, it's $179. And they would get there, and they give them a bill for $379. And the guy would go, you told me $179. I said, no, I did not. I told you $379. You must have misunderstood me. And they would harangue people into paying more. It was worse than a bait and switch, because I don't know, they were terrible people, and I inherited or purchased their business. I ended up getting a lot of value out of it, but it was a tough go for a minute there.
Yeah, I always tell people, I'm like, look, like, marketing and advertising should be an essential thing. It's something that you should be doing no matter what you're doing. But sometimes it's hard, right, to say, why am I going to spend $500, $1,000, $10,000 on marketing and advertising? Why am I doing that? What's the purpose of it? And the reality is it should be giving you a return on your investment. So if you're spending money and not getting anything from it, yeah, go ahead, stop that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you're spending money and you're making money off of it, why would you not continue to spend more and more money to make more money? But it's an interesting concept.
Yeah. And that's where your metrics and your number nerd stuff goes into play, because you watch that ad spend, because you can, I don't know the technical details, but there's always the law of diminishing returns. Like, you spend more, you're getting a good return. Let's spend more. Good return. Great return. Great return. And then you're spending more, you're still getting results, but they're diminishing. It's like, now it's cost more to acquire a new customer than it did down here. And watching that spend and the results, is a big deal to make sure that my camera doesn't freeze. Did it freeze?
A little bit. You're good again.
All right. To make sure that you're not suddenly paying too much per customer because you've gone above the certain.
Yeah, we're seeing that right now with heating and air guys and paid ads, right? We used to do Google ads, and we're big proponents of Google ads, and I still am in a lot of cases, but I have some heating and air guys that we're paying, no joke, just to get a lead, not to get an estimate, to get a lead. They were paying $500 to $600 on paid ads. Damn. And so at that point, it's like it doesn't make sense for you to continue to pay ads on this right now. We need to shut this off. You can't get a return on your investment on this. This is too much money.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to watch things. Even Google local service ads they were money not too long ago, but now all of a sudden Google's changed their way. You can't dispute them as much. You can't do some different things. So if you're not watching those ads, all of a sudden something that was working really well for you might not be working as well. So it's important that, like you said, are you checking like your leads? Are you checking the quality of them? Are you checking the return on investment you're getting? Are you getting guys that are calling you that are already your customers and you're not, who's calling you and what's making happen? And that's where it's really good to have a nice office person, somebody that can take those notes, and when they sign up a job or they get something, they're making notes in it. Sometimes we try to overcomplicate it and make it some huge system. It's the person that's answering your phone can ask them, how did they hear about you? Where did they hear about you? You can start tracking that information and then put the numbers into it. So on a monthly basis, you can go back and say, hey, we acquired 30 new customers. Where did those 30 new customers come from?
Yeah.
It can be that simple. Sometimes we try to overcomplicate that, but simple piece of paper and a check mark by it on where they heard from you from works just great.
Yeah. No, that's good. One of the things that has been a favorite of mine when you're looking for attribution, like how'd you hear about us? Because before we used some online tools, we only tracked by asking the question, how'd you hear about us? And once in a while, they were like, oh, I saw your van. I saw you on Facebook, whatever. But once in a while, you get somebody to say, well, you did my neighbor's house and I saw your truck and I saw your lawn sign and I heard you on the radio. And, they're like, and they go, my God, you're everywhere. And I'm like, yes, I love that because I'm probably, my competition's not everywhere. They're in one or two places.
Yeah. And that's where people don't understand is we don't make a decision off of the first thing that we see. Like the reality is most of the time we hear about it, we see something, we're going, and then when it's all of a sudden we have a need, right? All of a sudden it's we didn't even think about it. It's all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to do this. Then you're making a call or different things, but your decision is based off of other things that you might have heard from somebody down the street. It might have been something you seen a year ago. Like there's lots of factors that come into it. And that's where marketing gets a little bit more complex is like sometimes I think direct mail gets a bad rap, right? Back in the day, direct mail was very easy to track. We only had, a few things and you would call it. Well, now you get a piece of direct mail that comes in the mail. You look at that piece of direct mail and you're like, I wonder how these guys are. And then they look it up and they do a search and they say, oh, these guys have 5-star reviews. And they make a phone call right off of that because they're already there. And who gets the attribution for that? Is it the postcard or is it the Google My Business guy? Or is and so that's where it gets a little tricky. But it's important to understand is I always tell people take a percentage of your marketing, whatever your revenue is, and spend it on marketing and advertising. And some of those things you're going to easily be able to track and see the results and numbers. And some of those you're going to be hoping and praying that it's working as good as it is. One thing that I saw on direct mail that was kind of an interesting perspective or thought was we had this guy that said what he does is he'll mail out to a very specific area. And then every job that he gets in that area, he goes and puts a pin. And so instead of trusting that, he would know that he had just mailed out a mailer to that area. Yeah. And then he can see if there's an increase in the mailers in that area. And so it's, again, takes a little bit of time because you got to go and mark on a map or do different things. but he would literally put pins in that map, and he could tell that his direct mail was working, even though the call tracking number that was on the direct mail wasn't showing the number of calls.
Yeah.
You could see it visually by those pin marks of how much it had increased in that area.
That would be a cool visual to, if you did a map like that and had different colored pins for each of your different marketing channels and overlay them, and you could see it by neighborhood or by region. And you go, yeah, the Facebook got us this, and direct mail got us that, and these are the people that saw our vehicle or the lawn sign when we were already there. So that'd just be fun.
So you can do it a little easier. We don't have to do the map anymore. Google Maps has a Google thing, and you can actually take all your client list and you can upload that spreadsheet into it, and it would show you an overlay exactly where those houses are with the different pin colors. It'd be kind of fun to see.
That is something really fun. I'm looking to see if I can find mine real quick. We did that earlier this year because we were working on something, and I was like, man, I don't understand why I'm not seeing the information I need. And so we did the export, import, and if I can find it, I'll share it with you or show it on screen. Yeah, wah. I'm having a hard time with technology. Craig, do you feel me? You ever have a hard time with technology out there? I don't want to work for it. I just want it to work for me. I feel like I'm close. So this is me rambling while I'm trying to find something to show you.
Sid, we're men. We don't multitask as nearly as well as our wives.
No, we're the damn. I don't find anything. I'm finding stuff that I'm not looking for. That's not helpful. Whoa, my computer just went into Glitchville. So I'm going to stop fiddling around. Sorry, nobody can see what I'm doing, which is probably better. But I'm glitching everywhere right now. Can you still see and hear me okay, Victor?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm literally, everything's flashing and blinking around. But my favorite comment of the day, Craig, did this come up on screen? My controls don't work. He says, my rotary phone is my favorite. My rotary phone is always available to you. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, before we wrap up, we need to finish up here in just a minute. What are you teaching at the Huge this year? You're one of our breakout session speakers. What are you going to be sharing with everybody?
So I'm going to be talking a little bit, just going a little bit deeper on some of this AI stuff and things that we need to be doing, things that we need to be aware of, like what are those things that we should be doing to make sure that we're showing up as best we can. And really it all comes back down to the same thing. The things I'm talking about for AI are the same things I'm talking about for SEO. And so it's really helping you to know in 2025, how can you better show up online and be represented and make sure that you are getting the leads that you deserve to be getting. So we'll talk about just kind of those changes that's happened and what you need to be aware of and what you need to be doing to get more leads from your online representation.
Yeah, excellent. And, one of the things that it keeps coming up, and it's not a question of should I just do online marketing or should I do old school physical marketing? You mentioned it earlier. It's like the more points of reference people have for you, whether that's multiple citations that they see or that AI can see, or they saw you online and they saw your sign and they saw your truck and they, got something in the mail. Like it all works together and generates sort of a Lollapalooza effect. But the big thing is, like, don't leave stuff out, because it's like, I want to say it like this. If you add online marketing, you're doing online marketing in addition to the other stuff, it can have not just the effect of the one-to-one return ratio of who clicks online. It has a synergetic effect because people see you in other places, and now they just see you online and they're like, oh, hell yeah, I've been noticing this guy around, or they're already familiar, and it causes a buying decision right now.
And that's what we find is, sometimes you'll get these companies that have never done any online marketing, but they've done a fantastic job of doing everything else. And all of a sudden we put the piece of online marketing on top of what they're already doing as far as being a good company and doing these different things. And it just explodes for them because people were looking for them and they just couldn't find them online because they had been doing so many of these other things. and they just weren't being referenced. But all of a sudden, you start moving them into the top 3 on the maps, or you get them on the first page of Google, and all of a sudden their phone just starts ringing, and they're like, wow, this is working amazing. And I'm like, you're working amazing. You've been doing a great job. We just introduced you into a new world that now people are starting to find you that weren't finding you before. Because these companies that are older that haven't done that, they're just missing out on the importance of being recognized online. And the hardest part that I tell people is the hardest thing to catch up to is online reviews, right? Like reviews right now, like what you get put into it is really hard to catch up. And this is where, if you're not online and you need to be, is you need to start getting those reviews, because 5 years from now, somebody can't catch up to the reviews you're at unless they quadruple their business or just make themselves so much bigger than you are, because they just can't get enough people or customers to get there. Reviews are hard to earn.
Amen on that. It's, excuse me, here in Missoula, there are 18 window cleaning companies, and there's one other company, 2 companies that have been in business as long as we have. So 3 of us have been past the 20-year mark, and one of them, they're a good company. They do great work, and they've got 9 reviews, and they're 20 years in business. And we started focusing on reviews a few years ago to like, let's, relentlessly get reviews. And we're at like 670 reviews. And
they'll never catch it.
Yeah. The next closest competitor has 101. And then it trickles down from there. But it makes me sad inside, but also happy that one of my closest competitors has 9 reviews, and he's been in business for 20 years. And we have, like 60 times more than he does. And there's no way they can catch up.
Yeah. And this is where my job gets hard, right? 2 weeks ago, Google announced introduced a new thing on reviews. Go and check out your reviews. There's a little icon that's next to them. So now you can have people vote on the different reviews that are out there.
What?
So, yeah, so that's brand new. This happened like 2 weeks ago. So go check it out. Go look at your reviews. There'll be some little icons on there.
Uh-huh.
And what you want to do is, whatever your favorite reviews are, you want to go and like it or have other people like that review. So it's going to get pushed to the top. So now when it says, hey, here's a review you think you'll like, it's going to show those ones with the most interaction.
That's cool. Okay, I like that.
Great. So my world's changing all the time. It's crazy.
You'll never get old because you're always staying fresh, keeping up with stuff. Well, I think I texted you while we were talking. Will you see the little video? See a video I sent you? My computer screen's glitching out so hard that I actually can't see anything now. So
I'm talking about for AI.
I'm sure you're still there.
I'm still here. I see what you mean by it's glitching out. It does have Craig's message still just popped up there. So I was wondering if something was going on. So
yeah, I can't undo it. I can't see anything that's going on. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to reboot my machine before our next interview in 20 minutes. But Victor, I appreciate you being on. It's good to catch up with you a little bit. The one thing I meant to ask you about was fishing, but you have to share a fishing story with us at the huge convention.
Perfect. I love it. I still need to get up there and go fishing with you in the best territory ever, man.
They say a river runs through it.
Yeah. I'm going to come hit you up one of these days and go fishing with you.
I'd be down. All
right.
All right, guys. Everybody, thanks for joining. Thanks, Victor. Take care, man. I can't see anything. I'm just going to